Have you ever arrived somewhere familiar and felt like it didn't exist anymore? Imagine stepping off a train only to find the station empty. No travelers, no staff, no flickering lights in the waiting room, just silence. But why do your instincts scream that you shouldn't be here? Why is the air so cold, like it's sucking warmth from your skin? And when you look around, why do the shadows feel alive, shifting as if aware of your every move? Some people say stations are just concrete and steel, but this place, it watches you. What happened to the people who should have been here? Did they leave, or did something take them? You'll soon see the truth is worse than any logical explanation. I arrived at this station one rainy evening, my shoes sloshing in puddles on cracked tiles. The sky above was heavy and gray, and the station lights, normally buzzing and orange, were dim, like they were struggling to stay alive. The benches were empty, the ticket booths were shuttered. I could hear nothing but the rain pounding on the metal roof. A single train schedule flickered, but the train times were all wrong. Some were from decades ago. My heart beat faster. A part of me wanted to leave immediately, but curiosity, that irresistible pull, kept me walking deeper into the station. As I approached the platforms, I noticed something odd. The tracks extended into darkness so thick it seemed unnatural. Not a single echo bounced back when I shouted, not even the sound of a distant train. And then I saw them. Small black stains along the edges of the platform. They looked like water at first, but something about them was wrong. They didn't ripple, didn't reflect. They just absorbed the light. And I realized with a jolt, the stains were footprints. Tiny, distorted footprints leading toward the dark tunnel at the far end. I followed them cautiously, the wet tiles slipping under my feet. A faint sound broke the silence, a metallic clang, distant but deliberate. My skin crawled. Was it a maintenance worker? A stray animal? My rational mind tried to explain it, but instinct told me it wasn't ordinary. I saw shadows move along the platform, too quick to be human, and I froze. Every instinct screamed to leave, but I couldn't. Something was compelling me forward, pulling me toward that darkness. Then the air shifted. A breath of something cold and wet brushed against my neck. I turned, and the platform behind me was empty. There was no sound, no footprints, nothing. I realized then that if I stepped further into the station, there might be no coming back. Every instinct, every memory of normal life felt distant, like a dream I had forgotten the ending to. And yet, I couldn't stop. The station with no passengers had a story to tell, and it was about to pull me into a world I didn't understand, one that made me question reality itself. But what had happened to the other people, and why did the walls seem to whisper my name? I didn't know yet, but I was about to find out. If you've ever wondered what it's like to enter a place that doesn't want to exist, keep watching. And as you do, share your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if you were trapped in a station with no one else? Don't forget to like and subscribe to Lost Beyond Sight, because this story is only going to get darker. The next morning, I returned. Even in daylight, the station felt wrong. Sunlight usually softens the edges of concrete, but here, every shadow seemed sharper, darker, moving in ways that made no sense. I had told myself I would just observe, take notes, leave. But the moment I stepped onto the platform, a cold shiver ran down my spine. The air smelled metallic, like wet iron, and something else, something faint and almost sweet, like rotting flowers. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the abandoned benches and shattered glass, but my eyes kept returning to the tracks. The black footprints from yesterday were still there, and new ones had appeared, smaller, deeper, almost pressed into the concrete, like something heavy had walked on tiptoe. I followed them toward the tunnel at the far end. The walls of the station seemed to hum, a low vibration I could feel in my chest. My logical mind screamed that it was impossible. Walls don't hum, but the sound grew louder with every step, almost like whispers blending into the hum, calling my name, mocking me. I reached the tunnel entrance. Darkness stretched farther than my eyes could see. I could feel moisture dripping from the ceiling, and the smell was stronger now, almost choking. I shone my flashlight inside, and for a moment I thought I saw shapes moving just beyond the beam, something crouched and watching. Then they vanished. I stepped inside, and the air closed in around me, thick and heavy. Every sound of my footsteps echoed unnaturally, like the tunnel had no end. Halfway in, I saw scratches on the walls, long, deep lines that seemed fresh. I pressed my hand against one. It was wet, sticky, and my fingers came away coated in dark, cold residue. Panic bubbled in my chest, but curiosity pushed me further. I reached a small, abandoned room inside the tunnel. Chairs were stacked in corners, luggage lay scattered, and in the middle, written on the wall with the same black substance as the footprints, were words that made me freeze. "Leave now, or stay forever." I backed away, heart racing, but the whispers started again, closer this time, overlapping, rising in pitch until it felt like my head would split. Then, just as suddenly, they stopped. Silence. Total silence. I turned to leave the tunnel, but the entrance had changed. The opening stretched farther, twisting like a hallway in a dream, impossible angles, as if the station itself had shifted while I wasn't looking. My pulse thundered. I realized the place was alive, watching, bending reality around me. I ran, stumbling through darkness, hearing the faint shuffle of footsteps that weren't mine. Shadows darted across the walls, taunting, guiding me deeper. And then I saw them. Faint figures at the far end of the tunnel. Human shapes, hunched, standing perfectly still, staring at me. Their eyes glinted in the darkness, empty yet intelligent. I froze. My mind screamed to run, but my body refused. And then one of them moved and vanished. The station wasn't just abandoned, it was hungry, and I was already inside. I didn't know why, but I couldn't leave yet. I needed to know what had happened to the people who disappeared, what had created the black footprints, what lived in the tunnels. My only choice was to keep going, though every instinct screamed that going deeper might mean never coming back. The next night, I returned again, knowing I was risking my mind and perhaps my life. I brought recording equipment, hoping to capture evidence. But from the moment I stepped onto the platform, I sensed the station itself resisting. The lights flickered, as if aware of me, and the distant hum had returned, stronger, vibrating through my bones. My recordings caught only static and faint whispers, words I couldn't understand but felt deep in my chest. I noticed something new. The walls along the platform were covered in small holes, like insect nests, but bigger, perfectly circular, spaced as if following a pattern. I knelt to inspect one and saw something that made me recoil. A tiny human face pressed flat against the inside of the hole, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. I jumped back, heart pounding, but when I looked again, the face was gone. Only the holes remained, empty and perfect. My mind tried to rationalize reflections, hallucinations, tricks of the light, but deep down I knew it was real. Something had been here, watching, feeding. I followed the tunnel again, the black footprints multiplying like ink spreading on paper. My flashlight flickered. Shadows clung to the walls, moving independently as if testing me, learning me. I heard whispers again, this time forming words I could understand. "Don't trust the exit." My stomach turned. I wanted to run, but I was drawn forward. I felt that if I didn't continue, I would lose my mind completely, swallowed by fear and uncertainty. Deep in the tunnel, I found a room unlike the others. Chairs and luggage were arranged in a perfect circle. In the center, a single suitcase lay open, its contents arranged meticulously. Photographs of people, some familiar, some strangers, all with eyes blacked out. My breath caught. Among the photos, I saw my own reflection. The suitcase was waiting for me. I dropped my flashlight, fumbling to pick it up, but when I looked again, the suitcase had vanished. The tunnel seemed to stretch endlessly, and the air grew thick, sticky, hard to breathe. I heard footsteps behind me, slower than mine, deliberate. I turned, and nothing was there. Yet every instinct screamed that I wasn't alone. I ran, feeling invisible hands brush my shoulders, cold and pressing, trying to pull me back. Shadows darted past my peripheral vision, and the hum escalated to a deafening roar inside my skull. Then I saw something impossible. A figure at the end of the tunnel, standing in a pool of darkness that seemed to absorb light. It was human-shaped, but elongated, limbs bending unnaturally. I froze, paralyzed by the terror of seeing something beyond comprehension. The figure raised an arm slowly, pointing at me, and the whispers coalesced into one phrase: "You belong here." My heart threatened to explode. I realized the station wasn't just empty, it was alive, choosing, and I was its prey. I stumbled backward, losing my sense of direction, but one thing was clear: leaving wasn't an option. The station had plans for me, and I had to understand what it wanted before it was too late. By the third night, I realized the station had begun to anticipate me. Every step I took, the walls seemed to shift, subtly, impossibly. Platforms stretched, staircases twisted, and shadows moved independently of light sources. The air was thick, humid, and faintly metallic. Breathing felt like dragging air through wet clay. My flashlight flickered constantly, casting long, trembling shadows. Every time I turned, it seemed the station had reconfigured itself, creating new corridors I didn't remember. I was lost, but not entirely afraid. Yet, fear alone couldn't prepare me for what came next. I noticed writing on the walls, etched in something black and sticky, the same substance as the footprints. The letters were uneven, like carved by frantic hands. "Don't look behind." I swallowed hard. My mind wanted to obey, but curiosity clawed at me. I forced myself to glance backward, and for a brief, heart-stopping moment, I saw dozens of faces pressed against the wall behind me, eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams. They weren't real, I told myself. They couldn't be, but the pressure of them was tangible. The walls seemed to exhale, and the air smelled like decay. I followed the footprints deeper into the station. They led to an old ticket hall, windows shattered, paint peeling. But inside, I found something disturbing. Every ticket booth had a small, childlike figure crouched inside. They were too still to be alive, heads tilted unnaturally, staring into nothing. As I approached, one moved. Its limbs twisted at impossible angles, eyes black as coal. It whispered my name in a voice that sounded like metal scraping stone. I stumbled back, nearly falling over a pile of luggage that had appeared out of nowhere. The floor beneath me vibrated. I felt it before I heard it, the faint rumble of wheels approaching. I spun toward the tracks. A train appeared, but wrong. Its design was outdated, twisted with sharp edges that shouldn't exist. Lights flickered inside, revealing faces pressed against windows, all staring at me silently. It didn't slow. It didn't stop. It passed through me impossibly, leaving cold air and the smell of burnt metal. I gasped, heart racing, wondering if it had been real or another trick. I ran, chasing the footprints again, deeper into a tunnel that seemed to stretch forever. Whispers returned, now multiple voices overlapping, forming a chorus of warning and mockery. Every step I took echoed, but not in rhythm with my movements. Sometimes I heard steps behind me that were faster, lighter, and yet completely silent. Shadows darted just out of reach, teasing me, shaping the walls. The station wasn't just alive, it was hungry, and I was bait. Then I saw it, a door, blackened, warped, glowing faintly from inside. The footprints ended at the base, like an invitation. I hesitated, hands trembling, chest heaving. Beyond the door, I could hear whispers, laughter, crying, all at once. My logical mind screamed to stop, but some primal part of me wanted to know the truth. I reached for the handle. Cold, wet, and sticky, it pulsed under my fingers. The door shuddered open slightly on its own. Inside, darkness shifted like liquid. I felt eyes on every inch of my body, and I realized, with sinking horror, that the final secret of the station wasn't just in the tunnels. It was waiting for me, inside me. I stepped through the door, and the world changed immediately. Darkness closed around me like a living thing, thick and suffocating, but not empty. Shapes moved within it, almost intangible, like smoke with intention. My flashlight barely pierced the gloom, casting dancing, flickering beams that revealed glimpses of walls that weren't walls, floors that weren't floors, spaces stretching and folding on themselves. Every breath I took echoed in multiple directions at once. I realized the station had become more than a building. It had become a trap for my mind. I tried to move cautiously, but the floor felt uneven, as though I was walking on wet cloth. Whispers swirled around me, taunting, teasing, forming phrases I almost understood. You came here. You stay. Panic gripped me, and I ran blindly, trying to find something familiar, anything that resembled reality. Shapes emerged from the darkness, faint, distorted human forms, hunched, black-eyed, motionless. I passed through them, and each brush left my skin icy, sticky, like touching water made of cold shadows. My heart pounded, every instinct screaming that this wasn't a dream, and yet everything defied reality. Suddenly, I heard footsteps directly behind me. They were human, deliberate, heavier than mine. I spun, flashlight shaking, but there was nothing there. Then, from the shadows, a figure emerged, tall, elongated, limbs bending unnaturally. Its face was blank, smooth, yet somehow familiar. It raised an arm, pointing directly at me. I tried to speak, but my voice wouldn't come. My body froze, yet I felt myself being pulled forward. The floor shifted beneath me, walls bending closer. Panic surged like fire. I realized the station wasn't just alive, it was consuming memory, time, reality itself. Every step I'd taken had been recorded, twisted into a design I could not understand. The black footprints, the whispers, the distorted figures, they weren't just warnings, they were invitations. And now the station wanted me to complete whatever it had started. I felt a hand, cold, wet, impossible, brush my shoulder. I stumbled forward, heart hammering. My mind screamed to resist, but instinctively I moved, drawn toward a deeper darkness. And then I saw it, a massive mirror, not reflecting me, but showing someone else, someone I didn't recognize, standing where I had been when I first entered. The reflection mimicked my movements, except it smiled, slowly, cruelly. Behind the figure, shadows moved, growing, twisting, forming faces of people I'd seen in photographs in the abandoned suitcase. They were trapped, frozen, watching, waiting. My stomach churned. I realized with horror that I could become one of them. The station didn't just consume people, it replaced them. I backed away, tripping, breath coming in ragged gasps. The reflection followed, smile widening. I slammed my hands against the mirror, expecting it to shatter, but my hands passed through. My reflection still smiled. Whispers rose to a deafening crescendo, and I realized I had no choice. I ran past the mirror into darkness that seemed to swallow me whole. The station groaned and exhaled, as if disappointed but patient. It had tested me, played with me, and now it was deciding my fate. I didn't know if I would survive the night, or if survival meant leaving the station as I entered, or becoming something else entirely. And then, from the darkness, a whisper came, clear and precise, chilling every nerve. "You belong here." I ran, but belonged where? I ran until I could no longer distinguish walls from darkness. Time stretched, warped. Every step I took was echoed by invisible feet, faster, lighter, mocking. I was exhausted, trembling, and yet strangely compelled to move forward. The station wasn't simply a location, it was aware. Every heartbeat, every breath, it watched, calculated, waiting. I stumbled into another corridor. Black footprints covered the floor, forming a spiral that led downward. I knew instinctively this was the final path. As I descended, the temperature dropped sharply, my breath forming fog. Shadows along the walls writhed, shifting into shapes I recognized. Friends, strangers, faces from memories I hadn't recalled in years. Their eyes were hollow, staring through me. A whisper ran across my mind, intimate, invasive. "You will join us." I wanted to scream, to run back, but every step I took felt preordained. The station was bending my will, drawing me toward a truth I wasn't ready to face. At the bottom of the spiral, I entered a cavernous space, walls glistening with the black substance, footprints crisscrossing the floor. In the center stood a single chair, empty. I approached, heart hammering. Around the chair, shadows coalesced into shapes of people who had disappeared over the years, frozen in a twisted tableau. And then I saw it, a figure emerging from the darkness, taller than any human, faceless, yet unmistakably aware of me. It spoke, not in words, but in thoughts, clear and terrifying. "Everyone who comes here stays, or becomes the eternal watcher." I realized then that the station was more than a trap. It was a prison for souls. The black footprints weren't just warnings, they were markers of those already consumed, guiding the next victim. My chest tightened, panic clawing at me. I ran in a circle, disoriented, hearing whispers escalate into screams. Shadows stretched and lunged, reaching for me. The chair in the center, it beckoned, drawing me closer with impossible force. Every instinct told me to resist, but something inside me wanted to sit, to see what happened, to understand. I barely made it past the chair and stumbled into a narrow passage which twisted and elongated endlessly. I felt myself slipping, losing sense of time, identity. The black footprints followed me, multiplying, merging into one vast pattern, a web of inevitability. A whisper reached my mind, once seen, never forgotten. My reflection flickered in the wet walls, sometimes human, sometimes twisted, distorted, smiling back at me. And then I paused. The passage opened to a platform bathed in cold light. No train was coming. No one was there. Silence. But the air felt thick, like eyes were everywhere. My mind screamed to leave, yet the station's pull was undeniable. Something primal told me that if I stepped onto that platform fully, my reality would end. I turned, breathing hard, and looked back. The spiral, the shadows, the whispers, all waited. And I realized the most terrifying truth. The station didn't just trap people. It existed to make you question everything you know, to consume not just your body, but your mind. You could leave, but could you ever truly escape the knowledge of what was waiting? If you were standing there, alone, with black footprints leading into darkness, would you step forward or turn back? Think carefully, because some doors, once opened, never close. Share your thoughts in the comments. Theorize what lies beyond, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Lost Beyond Sight if you dare, because some mysteries are best experienced together.